they had the answer already with them, and we learned a lot from them.
No, appreciate that.
So
So,
I
quick
think
question: if Shahid needs to leave, will that cause a quorum issue for us, or?
We are very tight, right? In fact, we don't have quorum yet, Chair.
Okay,
So we'll give it just a moment.
yeah, I just want to. I need to expedite some stuff in case he needs to go. That way, we have voting items. We can get those on.
I believe the only voting item would be the approval of the consent agenda, Chair.
Okay, perfect. Then we're good.
Yeah, we're actually. Carrie, confirm if I'm correct, but I show we would at least have 15 in attendance now.
Yep, we have 15. We have quorum at the moment.
You
Okay.
may proceed, Chair.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get going. Good morning, members of the Transportation Review Committee. This meeting is now called to order at 10:01 a.m. Please state your name when making a comment or asking a question, and we will now begin the meeting with the roll call of members.
Thank you, Chair. I will roll call alphabetically by member agency. Ted Wolf, City of Apache Junction. Audra Merrick, ADOT. Raj Thowdam, City of Avondale. Scott Zipprich, City of Buckeye. Tyler Thurman as proxy for Hal Marin, Town of Cave Creek. Jason Crampton, City of Chandler.
Here.
Thank you. Jorge Gastelum, City of El Mirage. Romeo Trulli, FHWA. Christopher Salas, Town of Florence. David Janover, Town of Fountain Hills.
Present.
Thank you. Jason Hafner, Town of Gilbert.
Also present.
Thank you. Shahid Abbas, City of Glendale.
present.
Thank you. Chair Bridges, City of Goodyear.
Mhm.
Thank you. Amanda Nelson, Town of Guadalupe.
Present.
Thank you. Keith Dranaski, City of Litchfield Park. Scott Nodes, City of Maricopa. Vice Chair Wilcox, McDot.
Present.
Thank you. RJ Zeter, City of Mesa.
Present.
Thank you. Shar Johnson, Town of Paradise Valley.
Present.
Thank you. Brandy Kelso, City of Phoenix. John Kraft is proxy for Christopher Wanamaker, Pinal County Public Works.
I'm here.
Thank you. Julian Dresang as proxy for Mohammed Yosef, Town of Queen Creek.
Here.
Thank you. Nathan Domi is proxy for Mark Milenchenko, City of Scottsdale.
Here.
Thank you. Eric Boyles, City of Surprise. Shelley Seiler, City of Tempe.
Here.
Thank you. Chris Hamilton, City of Tolleson.
Here.
Thank you. Trevor Collin, Valley Metro.
I'm here.
Thank you. Herschel Workman, Town of Wickenburg. Grant Anderson, Town of Youngtown.
Here.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody?
Good morning, Iqbal Hussain here with ADOT. I'm proxy for Audra Merrick.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Brandy Kelso with City of Phoenix.
Thank you.
Ted Wolf, City of Apache Junction.
Thank you, sir.
Barry, can we pause for just a second? Can I
Yeah.
identify who on the call-in is Google Pixel 7 Pro? Just so we have that for the record.
That's probably me, Patrick. Eric Boyle, City of Surprise.
It is you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else I missed? Wonderful, Chair. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Do I have to refer to Eric as Google Pixel 7 now, or I'm just
Legally, yes. I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Sounds good.
I don't
All
want to
right,
hear any Apple comments, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Eric. All right, our next item is call to the audience. MAG provides the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Informational items are items on the agenda for discussion, not for action. Members of the public are invited to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee meetings in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Chair. We've received one online written comment for the call to audience, which has been provided to the members in advance of the meeting for consideration.
Great, thank you. I did receive that, so appreciate it. Next item, agenda item number 3, MAG staff report. Patrick Stone, MAG Deputy Transportation Director for Programming, will provide the report. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Bridges, members of TRC. Pleasure to be here this morning to present the report. Start off, I'd like to welcome Brandy Kelso to the committee representing the City of Phoenix. Brandy, excited to have you on board with us and look forward to the great work you'll do with the committee. Next, couple of programming updates. Fiscal year 2025 closeout is currently underway. The notice was sent out to members of the Transportation Review Committee last Monday, October 14th. Just note that requests are due into MAG by Thursday, November 14th at 5 p.m. I did want to note a couple of highlights of the closeout process. Fiscal year 2025 design assistance, which just went through the committee process back in September, and then the fiscal year 2025 street sweepers, which will be going through the committee process in November. Those projects not funded as part of the initial call for projects are eligible for closeout. MAG staff will be reaching out to each individual agency to confirm whether or not your agency may wish to pursue closeout funding. As of note, closeout covers mainly shortfalls for fiscal year 2025 projects, project advancements from fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 25, and also potentially funding design and right-of-way phases with federal funding. Next item, on behalf of our partners at ADOT, we just received the notice yesterday. We're putting it together to get out to member agencies, but we'll be sending out the call for projects administered by ADOT for fiscal year 2026 off-system bridge projects. They do this annually. Please note the projects have to be on off-system bridges, which are bridges on roadways classified as rural minor collectors or local roads. Another item of note, a little delayed this year because of some other items, but once again, MAG staff will be going out to visit member agencies. We'd like to do this annually. Intent is to start these visits in November. Wendy Miller, TIP program manager here at MAG, will be coordinating those visits. Gives us an opportunity to meet with you and your staff, talk about projects for the current year and upcoming projects. And then finally, for those agencies that have arterial life cycle program or ALCP projects, Ms. Carrie Kassler will be sending out those project workbooks in the upcoming weeks. Be on the lookout for those. And with that, Chair Bridges, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Patrick. Do any members have any questions for Patrick right away? Or if not, and you would think of him later, please contact him after the meeting. All right, hearing none. Next item, number 4, informational item. We don't have any informational items, so we're going to go ahead and skip to item number 5. Item 5, approval of consent agenda. Items 5A and 5B are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these items?
Chair Bridges, can I pause you for a moment? We just had someone jump on the call that is identified as guest. Can we identify who that individual is, please?
Yes, please.
Once again, we have someone who just joined the meeting labeled a guest. If you can identify who you are so we can capture that for the record, please. If not, I'll have to kick you out of the meeting because we cannot have unidentified participants. All right, Chair Bridges, I'm just going to put this, I'm going to remove this person from the, unfortunately for.
Yeah, understood.
All right, they popped off the call, so maybe it was someone who inadvertently jumped on the call. Thank you. Apologies, Chair. You can proceed ahead with agenda item 5.
No problem. So not hearing any questions or comments on agenda items 5A and 5B. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item on the consent agenda. Carrie, we received any online written comments for the consent agenda?
Thank you, Chair. We have not received any online written comments for the consent agenda.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve consent items 5A and 5B?
Dave Janiver, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Jason Hafner seconded.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. We will have those participating in the meeting now take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. So members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so the staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Can I go ahead and have a voice vote? Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say nay. All right, hearing none. Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members who were not able to turn on their camera?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mr. Shahid Abbas? Hal Marin? I believe they both have proxies on the call at the moment, so we will record that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. Item number 6, 2024 annual report on the status of the implementation of Proposition 400. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Patrick Stone, MAG Deputy Transportation Director for Programming. That's a different word. Patrick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the TRC, pleasure to be here today to present this item. Next slide, please. And as Chair noted, this item is on the agenda for information and discussion. The 2024 annual report on the implementation status of Prop 400. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start the presentation, just kind of an overview of why the report's produced, what the report is for. As you see on the slide, state statute requires that MAG produce an annual report on the implementation of Prop 400. The report does cover the 3 life cycle programs, freeway, arterial, and transit, and the report's intended to provide an update on project status, discuss finances of the proposition, and then also look at the outlook for implementation. Next slide, please. Here we see the projected half-cent sales tax revenues associated with Prop 400. What you see is in the light blue, the period of fiscal years 25 and 26, as identified in the 2023 report. Dark blue, we now move forward a year and look at those same years on the 2024 report. As you can tell, the amounts are virtually unchanged. Against a significant revenue, there was only 2.2 million in difference between the 2 years, which is what we would actually expect. As you get to the end of this, there's less volatility and instability in the numbers, or the estimates are much easier to keep going year over year. Next slide, please. So as you can see on the pop-up, forecasted revenues for the next 2 years equal $1.3 billion. Next. So in addition to the sales tax funding,
Sorry, I think it was a bigger meeting that you were just like watching and talking.
There's a sizable amount of federal funding allocated to the region through FHWA and FTA. As shown on the slide, just over 500 million is projected to be available to the region in fiscal years 25 and 26, the largest component being discretionary grants provided by FTA. Of note, and not included on this slide, but equally important, just over $1 billion is allocated to the Freeway Lifecycle Program for federal funds programmed through and administered by the Department of Transportation. Next. And one thing, and I like to put this little pop-up here to kind of draw attention to it. We talk about it time and time again, but the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Bill, or also known as IIJA, it was a historic transportation bill, significant increases in funding, especially in the federal transit space, as reflected in the projections in the annual report. Next slide, please. So the map here shows the Freeway Lifecycle Program, shows the projects completed and underway during 2024. 2 significant projects finally completed. First being the new traffic interchanges along State Route 303 at 43rd and 51st Avenues adjacent to the TSMC facility. And then in addition, along Interstate 17, the drainage project between Peoria and Greenway was completed. Looking at the underway projects, top of mind is the Broadway Curve project on I-10 between the Split and the 202. In addition, we have the Flex Lane projects on I-17 north of the valley. And then we have 3 widening projects in the region along the Agua Fria, Pima, and Santan freeways. Next slide, please. Moving over to the Arterial Lifecycle Program, 1 project completed during 2024, which was Chandler Heights between McQueen and Gilbert. In addition, we have numerous projects underway. We don't list them all. We wanted to highlight a few key projects. First being Power Road between the East Maricopa Floodway and the 202. In addition, we have the Gilbert Road Bridge, of which you see the picture on the slide over the Salt River. And then a widening project on Happy Valley between 67th and 35th Avenues in the city of Phoenix. And then finally, the El Mirage Road project going from the Loop 303 to Joe Max Road in the city of Peoria. Next slide, please. Shifting focus over to the Transit Lifecycle Program. If you can advance the slide, please. Within the bus component of the TLCP, we did have 1 route change. That was on Route 48, extending service along Rio Salado Parkway from Tempe Marketplace to Mesa Riverview. In addition, 199 transit vehicles were purchased during 2024, including expansion and replacement buses, as well as paratransit vehicles. Click, please. On the rail side, a significant project completion occurred in 2024. Northwest Extension Phase 2, extending the light rail route from 19th Avenue in Dunlap up to Metro Center. In addition, underway, we have the South Central Extension, which is taking that line down to Baseline Road. Next slide. A good map here, what you really see is you see those regional freeway investments along with the transit investments. The green, obviously, the loop system created as far as Prop 300. Then you see the extension of Prop 400. And what I kind of wanted to do was take a moment and really celebrate those accomplishments associated with Prop 400. If you'd click for me, please. Starting with 428 quarter miles of freeway and highway projects totaling over $8 billion. Next. In addition, we have 308 arterial corridor miles, again totaling almost over 1.3 billion. And then finally, click please, 130 million bus transit revenue miles totaling 5.6 billion in investments. Those are significant, substantial numbers that show the impact of Proposition 400. Next slide, please. Where do we go from here? Looking forward, obviously continue to look at adjustments to programs and projects. I'm going to skip to the next one, which is, again, we'll continue to review program cost estimates, ensuring the program is within fiscal constraint. And then finally, in less than 2 weeks, Proposition 479 is on the ballot for consideration by voters in Maricopa County to extend the half-cent sales tax. Next slide. And with that, Chair Bridges and members of the Transportation Review Committee, pleasure to present this item today, available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Patrick? Okay. Hearing none. Thank you, Patrick. Moving on to agenda item number 7, which is update on the Interstate 10 Deck Park Tunnel to the Interstate 10/Interstate 17 Split Freeway Corridor Planning Study, which is a very short title. Thank you, Patrick. The item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Brad Williams, Transportation Engineer 4. Brad?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here speaking to you about this project. This is the I-10 corridor study from the Deck Park Tunnel to the I-10-17 split. Next slide, please. Here you can see the limits of the project from the tunnel over to the mini stack with the 202 and the 51 down to the split with the 17. And then up north, it goes on the 51 to Thomas Road. Next slide, please. This is a high-level study. We're looking for effective and implementable solutions that will become a framework for future projects to be funded through Prop 479. Next slide, please. This is the beginning of a fairly lengthy process. This is the planning phase or pre-planning phase where we come up with ideas that we want to move forward with. That becomes the framework for subsequent design projects and of course, in construction after that. There are some issues that will require additional consideration as I'll discuss at the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. Our planning partners are what you would expect, but there are a few extras. The Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, for example, is a partner, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration, and that's because we go near Sky Harbor Airport and have to deal with their requirements as well. Next slide, please. We have many objectives: improving safety, operations, access, protecting the surrounding communities and others. Next slide, please. We are nearing the end of this project. About a year ago, we had a large public survey, and at that point, we were just developing alternatives to be tested. We've gone through that process. We have a set of recommended improvements that we want to share with you today. We also are just about finished with a public engagement. We had a meeting a week or two ago, and we're now documenting the results of that. And then we'll go through the MAG committees with our final recommendations. Next slide, please. So our early findings as we were starting this project, the first one was that there are a lot of crashes here. Next slide, please. Here you see a temperature map where we show the number of crashes in colors. The red areas are where the highest frequency of crashes occurs. I want to point to the number in green. For the period between 2016 and 2021, there was an average of 5.4 crashes every single day. And that adds up to 12,000 crashes over 6 years. Next slide, please. We also looked at those crashes that have severe injury or death. You see the temperature map here for those. They tend to be near the interchanges. And there was an average of 1.2 crashes that resulted in severe injury or death during the 6 years. If you can see little black dots, those represent crashes that resulted in a death. Next slide, please. We also had some early findings on travel speed. And I'm going to take you on a quick trip here where you see on the arrow, we're coming from the mini stack going down towards Sky Harbor Boulevard. And if you're taking this trip, things are going very well at the beginning. We're averaging 59 miles per hour, but then things begin to slow down very rapidly until you reach 8 miles per hour by the time you get to Sky Harbor Boulevard. Now, what's happening here is there's an event near Sky Harbor Boulevard, and the vehicles are virtually stopped. That queue starts moving up and up as the hour goes by. So if you get there just as that event is occurring, you can go 59 miles an hour all the way down until you slam on your brakes after you pass Jefferson Street. But by the end of the hour, the queue has gotten so long, you're slamming on your brakes before you get to Washington Street. So that's one type of event that we needed to address. Next slide, please. This one is looking at the difference in speeds in different lanes. The image that you're seeing here is on eastbound I-10 at the 16th Street off-ramp. And every dot that you see here is a car. So if it's a red dot, that means the vehicles are moving slowly. If it's a yellow dot, they're moving much more quickly. What we're looking at here is a backup from the mini stack where the right two lanes on the eastbound freeway are in queue, trying to get to the 51 and the 202. Meanwhile, the main line is continuing at very high speeds going by. So here you have real challenges trying to weave between these lanes, and certainly this creates a potential for crashes. Go to the next slide, if you will, please. Now, what we learned from that analysis is that there is a correlation between locations where you have differences in speed, as were described in the previous two slides, a correlation between that problem and where the crashes occur. So here, if you see the dark blue line, that's where you have a differential in speed, a large differential with fast-moving cars and slow-moving cars in the same area. And then the dots are the hot spots for crashes. So you can see there's a real correlation there. And it told us that we can improve safety by addressing these areas where we have the speed differential. Next slide, please. So our conclusions at this point were safety is the highest priority, but we still need to do what we can to increase capacity and reduce congestion. Next slide, please. At this point, we went to the community with our survey, and it went very well. We had almost 2,000 surveys completed. Next slide. So we asked them to rate how bad is the congestion here, and you can see 80% or more said bad to very bad. The primary reasons that they felt impacted by this were stops and starts and erratic driver behavior. Those are safety measures, safety related items, and they're at the top of the list, followed with a very close third, which is long travel times. Next slide, please. We asked them, do you avoid this area at times? And the answer was yes, indeed, 56% avoid it for the same reason: stops and starts, erratic behavior, long travel times. Safety is again at the top. So the next question we asked them, next slide, please, is what's the most important objective? Safety again came up on top. The next one was travel time and ease of travel. So here again, we have safety at the top of the list, and congestion is close following objective. Move to the next slide, please. We also asked, do you support making improvements in this corridor? We got overwhelming support. And it wasn't so much what you're going to do, but do something. We approve it. Next slide, please. So the community message confirmed what we had come up with. Safety is the most important objective. We still need to increase capacity, and we need to protect the communities and their access. Next slide, please. Now, the question became, we know that the speed differential is something we need to correct in order to make the area more safe. But how do we locate those places where that begins? The way that we did that is that we developed a sophisticated micro-simulation model, and we could start the traffic going through the area at the beginning of the peak hour and carry it through. And you see here, before the peak hour began, everything is white, which means traffic is moving very well. We had no serious problems. But by the end of the peak hour, it's black everywhere. So the way we found out where they are, we would start the simulation at the beginning, and every 5 minutes, we would stop and take a snapshot. And as we worked through that way, we could see where little black marks started to begin. And you can see that on the image on the left. But over time, we could track them. They would get bigger and more would show up. And by going through that process, next slide, please, we were able to identify 9 locations that we needed to provide improvements to eliminate these bottlenecks. Next slide, please. Now, what do you do once we found those locations? Well, we came up with 2 primary strategies to do that. One is called braided ramps, and the other is called collector distributor roads. Next slide, please. Now, in this image on the left, think of that as the existing condition. This is a freeway section. You're moving from left to right. And on the left side, you have an on-ramp adding more cars into the middle of this section. Then there's an off-ramp on the right that takes them off. So in the middle section, you have more traffic than on the ends, but they're also weaving to change lanes. Now, if there's too much traffic or if those two ramps are too close together, this can be a serious operational problem. So the solution in this case is to reverse the locations of these two ramps. Take the on-ramp on the left and move it to the right. Take the off-ramp on the right and move it to the left. When you do that, the two ramps run into each other, and then you have to build a bridge to separate them. And that's what we call a braided ramp. Next slide, please. And here's an example of two braided ramps. This is at the mini stack interchange, and these are the 24th Street on and off ramps, braiding with ramps to the 51 and the 202. Next slide, please. The other option is the collector distributor road. The problem is exactly the same. We have these two ramps that we reverse in location. In this case, we push them further apart, and instead of building a bridge to separate them, we connect them to a parallel road, sort of a frontage road. And we call this a collector distributor road. And what happens in this case is you don't have any cars weaving on the main line of the freeway. All the weaving cars have been moved over to a separate location that is designed for that weave. Next slide, please. Here's an example of collector distributor roads that are being provided on I-10 at the Broadway curve. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to take you through a series of improvements that we've recommended. And what we're looking at here is the existing condition. And I'm going to start with westbound I-10, going from the mini stack interchange towards 7th Street and over to 3rd Street here. And you can see in the westbound direction, we have an on-ramp from 16th Street we're missing the off-ramp to 7th Street there. It's missing from this image. But there is a off-ramp there, and they're very close together, and we have a serious weave in between there. Go to the next slide, please. So what we've done in this case is we've moved the on-ramp, the off-ramp to 7th Street all the way over to the mini stack. And you can see in the gold line, both coming northbound on I-10 or westbound on the 202, you have a ramp that takes you on a separate long ramp over to 7th Street. And then we have ramps that go over that, creating braided ramps. Now, if you look at this carefully, you'll see that when we remove the existing off-ramp to I-10, people coming down from SR 51, and you can see the long purple ramp there, suddenly they're on the main line and they don't have access to 7th Street anymore. We know that that's a problem. We think we have a solution, and the blue line that you see there is a location where we can put a ramp connecting it so that you still have access from the 51 to 7th Street. We can't at this point guarantee that that connection can be made because we need to go to a higher level of engineering in the initial stages of design. So that certainly is a high objective, and we're pretty confident that we'll be able to do it, but we can't promise it at the moment. I'm now going to move to the eastbound side, just below what you see here. And you see there's an on-ramp from 7th Street, and then there's an off-ramp to 16th Street. We have another weave problem here. Go to the next slide, please. And we do the same thing. We have a long off-ramp from the I-10 that begins at 7th Street. And this time it goes not only to 16th Street, it goes all the way to the 202 and the 51. So we move all of that traffic off of the main line and have it on this long ramp. Now the next location is going to be southbound on the 51, coming down from Thomas Street. You have an on-ramp from Thomas Street and then an off-ramp to McDowell. Next slide, please. So we do the same thing. We have a long braided ramp that moves the off-ramp up to Thomas Road. Go to the next slide, please. Now we're further south near Sky Harbor Boulevard. And you can see the purple ramp, which is the on-ramp from Jefferson Street southbound onto I-10. What you can't see is just below that, there's an off-ramp that goes to Sky Harbor Boulevard. We remove that and instead have this long ramp that starts earlier. So in this way, we don't have the weave at that location, and we have the different facility to carry them. We have a similar situation on the other side of the freeway. You can see the on-ramp from Sky Harbor Boulevard is very close to the off-ramp to Jefferson. Next slide, please. We do the same thing again. This time we call it a collector distributor road. And the way this works is if you're on I-10 and you want to go to the 51 or the 202, you get off down there just past Sky Harbor Boulevard on the gold colored off-ramp. You take that all the way up on the collector distributor road to get to the 51 and the 202. If you're coming from Sky Harbor Boulevard, you get on the collector distributor road. You don't get on I-10 right away. You go up to about Washington, and then the on-ramp gets you onto I-10. Go to the next slide, please. Another situation is further south from the Buckeye on-ramp. You can't see the existing off-ramp that takes you to I-17, but again, we do the same braided ramp to correct that situation. On the other side of the street, you can see how the I-17 on-ramp onto I-10 is very close to the off-ramp to Buckeye Road. Next slide, please. So we do pretty much the same thing here. In this case, we actually have a direct, longer ramp directly to Buckeye Road. So the only people getting on I-10 at that location are people either that are already on I-10 or they're on the on-ramp from I-17. The last improvement that we're recommending is on the next slide. And that's we're adding a second lane on the HOV system between the connections where the HOV lanes from the 202 and the 10 merge under the mini stack over to where the exit, the direct HOV exit to 3rd Street occurs. So that will provide more capacity that's needed in that section and also make it easier to get in the lane you need to be for the exit. Next slide, please. The impacts of these improvements, I'm going to compare them to existing conditions. In this particular case, we used the year 2018 as our existing condition for the reason that we had a lot more data to calibrate our models to, but what's happening today is pretty similar to 2018. And what you'll see here is we do get an increase of about 5,000 vehicles using the system during the peak hour. That's a 15% increase. We get a 10-mile-an-hour increase in speed, average speed. That's a 34% increase. And we get a 44% reduction in the number of minutes of delay for each vehicle from 3.4 minutes to 1.9. Now, if you're traveling from one end of this corridor to the other, you have much more than a 3.4-minute delay, but this is including trips that make vehicles that make very short trips, and on average, that averages 3.4. Now, this is during the AM peak hour. So think of it this way. We have the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour. That's about 7 hours of time when we have maximum traffic. Any other time of the day, the traffic is less. Which means that and the PM peak hour, I'll get to in a minute, is a bit worse than the AM. So what we're looking at here is something that applies for the whole day, for 20 of the 24 hours of the day. And that's in comparison to what we're experiencing today at that location. The PM peak hour looks a bit different. If you go to the next slide, here you can see on the left, this is the existing condition. Here, the black lines are telling us vehicles are moving very slowly. In the 2050 build situation, we don't see that at all. Things are moving very well. So this is telling us we have a system that's going to work very well for 20 hours out of the day. Now, when we look at the PM peak hour, we don't see quite the same level of improvement. Next slide, please. We still get an increase, this time of almost 10,000 vehicles during the peak hour. We get an increase in average speed, but it's not very much. And we get a reduction in delay, but again, it's not very much. If we go to the next slide, you can see this in the imagery where we have black lines on the left for the existing condition. We also have some black lines on the right. They're not in the same places, they move around, but we still have some black lines. Now, what is the reason for that? Next slide, please. The reason is we have some constraints that we have no control over. And the easiest one to understand is the Deck Park Tunnel itself. It's pretty much maxed out. We can't make it wider. We we have to live with the capacity of that tunnel, which means that during the PM peak hour, vehicles can get to the tunnel, but they can't get through it, and that creates a queue. We have similar problems with the SR 51 and Loop 202. There's just not room to increase capacity on those either. And so those are things that are constraining our ability to get the same level of performance during the PM peak hour. So we need to look at other improvements so we can get some of that peak hour traffic using other facilities. And we also have the opportunity to do some additional engineering so we can improve the results from what we're seeing today. Next slide, please. So we have issues that we have to address. This again is the beginning of the process, and we can do better than what I'm presenting to you today. We know we need to fix the connection from SR 51 to 7th Street. We think we can do that. We have a similar issue accessing Sky Harbor Boulevard from Jefferson Street. Again, we think we can do that, but we need another level of engineering to confirm it. We want to look at other improvements like on the section of I-17 and other places, so some of that demand can be moved to other facilities. And of course, we're absolutely committed to avoiding any negative community impacts. Next slide, please. Our schedule is that we have just had a public meeting. We're documenting the comments that we received from them that will allow us to modify our final recommendations, which we're going through right now, and we expect we'll be going to MAG committees for approval on these recommendations early next year. Next slide, please. Remember, I said at the beginning that this is the beginning of a process. We have a lot of work to do after this is approved to begin design projects and to not only get them ready for construction, but also to improve on the results that we presented today. And of course, we have other issues that still need to be addressed as well. Next slide, please. And the end of this result is to provide a framework of improvements that can be the basis for funding through Prop 479 in the future. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Brad. I think with the amount of detail you just went through, you should probably have the rest of the day off. I'm not saying that you can, you have to clear it through Patrick, but I do appreciate the large amount of detail that went into this, and it's complicated, so thank you very much. Do any members have any questions or comments for Brad?
This is Hal Marin. I have one question.
Sure.
The question I have is, did you look at the incredible disappearing lanes from 51 to 10? Because as you're heading towards Sky Harbor, somebody moving from traffic has to move over 5 lanes in order to exit to get off at Sky Harbor.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the question. Yes, indeed, we did look at that. By creating a longer off ramp, we're able to sort of clean that up so we don't have that same problem of lanes disappearing, as you said, through that section. So thank you for the question. And yes, we are addressing it.
Have you also looked at maybe a bypass from the flyover lane directly to Sky Harbor to remove some of the traffic off of that merger?
We've limited ourselves to what can be done within the existing right-of-way. We've pretty much, I think, used up the available land that we have. So I don't know that we could find an additional bypass, but certainly is something we can take a look at. So I'd like to take that question to heart and see if there's something we can do.
Thank you.
Good questions, Al. Anybody else?
I have a question, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have driven this corridor, especially I drive every week during a peak hour to get to the airport. So it's a very typical corridor, which is very synonymous to 101 in Bay Area from San Jose all the way to San Francisco. If I look at this corridor and relate that corridor, I think they are just mere copy of each other. And most of the problem there came from, and here so also, because every street, major and minor, has an interchange, which brings a lot of conflicts, and that's what I think, that's my observation. I think that's what bring the traffic back, ripple effect all the way, shock effect all the way to the tunnel one. Do we take a look at that? We can improve those, surface street traffic and close some of the and some of the streets really don't have much traffic to contribute to this corridor. We still have an interchange and consolidate those that can help or make an improvement on the side streets. There's a many traffic which comes here probably belongs to the side streets, surface streets. They still use the freeway, so they stay away from the freeway, and they just use the surface streets. Like you said, there are very short trips on this corridor.
Thank you very much for the question. And I do understand the issue that you're describing. When you look at those places where we had the speed differential, where the bottlenecks were occurring, it was primarily at locations where you had an on-ramp and an off-ramp very close together, and there wasn't enough room. And that happens when you have a lot of interchanges close together. The solution that we came up with here is to try and maintain what exists, but to remove the problem, that weave problem. And we've done that with the strategy of braiding the ramps so that we don't have those short weave sections anymore. That's the strategy that we've been using. We didn't want to remove connections. We may end up doing that. And we know that just especially the getting from the 51 to 7th Street is a connection that's very important. We're not 100% sure, but we're confident we can keep it. We tried to deal with the issue by moving the ramps around rather than trying to remove connections.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
All right, we have any other questions? There's good questions.
I have one more follow, if you don't mind, Chair. So have we looked into the latent demand? We create capacity and those been immediately filled up for the latent demand, and we are in the same situation.
We did indeed. And as I mentioned, we have constraints. So the demand is being constrained by the tunnel and by some of the other facilities getting here. We did show there's a lot of demand that doesn't get through here. That's the case today. It's going to be the case in the future. Our objective was, number one, to make it a safer experience, to make it a better experience operationally. We can achieve those things, but no, we cannot meet all of the demand. We're far short of that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Not hearing any. If you think of any, obviously you can reach out to Patrick and Brad after the meeting. Thank you, Brad. Excellent presentation. And I hope Patrick gives you the rest of the day off.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Moving on to agenda item 8. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Haidong Zhu, Deputy Transportation Director for Modeling, an overview of the regional travel demand model. Take it away.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Review Committee. My name is Haidong Zhu, and I'm the Deputy Transportation Director for Modeling here at MAG. I appreciate the opportunity to provide some background information about the MAG travel demand model, its applications, and how it serves the member agencies. Next, please. Before starting my presentation, I'd like to thank Shahid for pointing out the importance of the travel demand model during the previous TRC meeting. The model is indeed an essential part of the regional planning process. First of all, the model is a crucial tool for the support for air quality conformity analysis. It also produces important data and analytics for the decision-making for our transportation investments. Last but not least, the model supports local efforts on a variety of projects, including development impact assessments. This is where we provide insights and services to you and to all of our member agencies. This is where we can add value. Next, please. The MAG modeling team sticks to several key principles when carrying out model development and applications. First, we strive to ensure timely delivery of modeling updates and model results around the clock to meet the needs from all levels. Next. We implement a series of protocols and procedures to make sure we develop high quality models and those models produce high quality results. Next, please. All that we do is part of a collaborative process that involves all the member agencies. More will be talked about later. Next page, please. Our regional travel demand model covers an area of a little over 16,000 square miles, which for modeling purposes includes the entire Maricopa and Pinal counties, as well as portions of Yavapai and Gila counties on the north. To put things into perspective, this area that we're so proud of is about 30% larger than the entire state of Maryland. We're essentially doing more than a statewide model here in terms of, East Coast. But for Horizon Year 2023, we have about 5.5 million population in the model, and by 2050, it is projected to be 7.7 million. Next. The MAG model consists of many submodels and procedures. Next. The main part is called the activity-based model, ABM in short. It is to predict the personal travel demand within this region, like going to work, taking your kids to school, going shopping, and the trips, from all those activities. The MAG ABM has been recognized nationally and internationally as one of the most advanced travel modeling tools. Next. The tour-based truck model is also a very important element of the MAG model. It models the truck trips in the form of tours, where trucks start from their depot in the morning and travel to the destinations throughout the day, throughout the region, and eventually go back to the depot. Amazon trucks can be a good example. There are also, next please. There are also smaller, and next please. And there are also smaller components focusing on airport travel, external related models that forecast trips like to and from the region. Next, please. In this slide, I'll talk a bit more about the input to the model. Next. Social economic data is one of the most important inputs to the model. Through MAG committee process and in collaboration with all the member agencies, MAG produces social economic projections every 3 to 4 years for MAG Regional Council's approval. Next. MAG also maintains meticulous modeling networks that reflect the transportation investment in this region. The development of these networks won't be possible without input and the staff support from all the member agencies. Next. To build and to update the model, we need a lot of good survey data to help us understand travelers' behavior for us to replicate those behavior in the model. Next. We also need a tremendous amount of traffic data to validate model to make sure it does the right thing. Next. For the modeling networks, we code the relevant projects in RTP, ALCP, FLCP, TLCP, and TIP. Member agency staff also review the networks through this MAG modeling network feedback tool. Next. This tool online portal allows the member agency staff to periodically go over the network coding for the links within their boundaries and recommend changes or corrections. So it's okay if you guys haven't heard about this. This is a very important step to make sure your city's road and street information accurately reflected in the modeling network. Please ask us or your staff for more details. Next page, please. Now I'd like to talk a bit more about the activity-based model, which simulates people's travel behavior in detail. As in this simple example, we simulate this person's entire daily itinerary from or tour, from driving her kid to school by carpooling in the morning, going to work right after, and she went out on foot for to grab some bite at lunch. Near the end of the day, she drives back home with a stop at a grocery store. For both you guys and me, these are among the travel decisions we have to make every day that have impacts on our transportation system. Next, please. Under the guidance of FHWA and FTA, the regional travel demand model goes through extensive peer review processes. The most recent one was conducted in December of 2018, when the peer review panel, which is a group of national leading experts from academia, peer agencies, and consultants, and of course, federal officials. They spent 2 days here at the MAG office scrutinizing the MAG ABM model for everything from assumptions, methodologies, implementations, and documentations to the model results. We then spend a lot of efforts addressing peer review panel's comments, conducting additional analysis, and enhancing the model with new features. In 2020, the peer review panel unanimously recommended that the MAG ABM as the model of record for MAG. And since 2021, the ABM has been part of the official MAG model that took on many important tasks. Next page, please. One of the most notable comments, I would say, we received from the peer review panel was the quality of the model results. The MAG model undergoes rigorous validation to ensure its accuracy. The current 2018 base year model has been validated against multiple sources of data, including the actual traffic counts, speed data, and origin destination data. Next page, please. Using traffic volume validation as an example, which with counts collected over 1,000 locations all over the region shown on this map, a very high level of accuracy has been achieved. Next page, please. The MAG modeling team has been continuously updating and enhancing the model. One of our goals for next year is to make 2024 the new base year from the model once we get a hold of the new observed data. We have received 2023 Valley Metro origin and destination survey results, and we're having 2 other surveys going on till later this year, the household travel survey and ASU student survey. Yeah, we had a little difficulty in ASU survey, and that may drag a bit longer. We're currently laying groundwork for the ABM recalibration by conducting preliminary data analysis and quality checks on the initial batch of the survey result records. We're also planning to have our entire truck model recalibrated, which include heavy, medium, and light trucks. The second half of 2024 traffic counts will continue in the fall, with the new traffic count data, we'll be able to do a comprehensive validation of the model. Next, please. Our modeling team is also actively incorporating new travel behaviors and traffic impacts brought by the ever-changing trends and technologies. Although our model is now capable of including all of these you guys see on the screen through various modules of the model, we'll make sure to keep the model up to date with the latest observed data or new consensus from the industry while the future is being shaped out. Next, please. So let's talk more about the model outputs. The model generates tons of very useful information, such as travel demand, which may include anything related to trips people make, like the origin and destination information. Next. Network impact is actually the most sought after information that member agencies have requested, like travel volume, speed, delay, LOS, all those things. The model provides important support to all of you on your development work. Next, please. Vehicle miles traveled, VMT in short, together with VHT, are among the top items as system performance indicators. Next, please. In addition, we also provide forecasts for public transit as well as for bike and ped. Next page, please. By applying our post-processing procedures and the software tools that we developed in-house, we can also produce additional outputs that are very useful. Next, please. For example, in addition to traffic volumes at segment level, we can also calculate turning volumes at intersection level. Next, please. Another popular exercise is select link or select zone analysis, which is to focus on one or group of links or traffic analysis zones to see where the users of those links or zones coming from and where they're going to. Next, please. You may also want to perform a more detailed investigation of travel patterns within a sub-area of your interest. We can use the sub-area analysis tool to zoom in a bit and for faster turnaround. It also helps us to extract a sub-area network and travel demand for things like traffic macro simulation. Next, please. Another common request is for isochrones or travel time contour maps. We can generate customized travel time contours for any spot in the region. Next page, please. With a great outputs from the model, the modeling team completes about 150 modeling and data requests per year. And next, please. And next again. Sorry about that. So on average, about every 2 days, we complete a request to cater the needs of MAG and its member agencies and ADOT. Next, please. We serve the region with data and insights on a variety of projects from as small as street or intersection improvements to complex master plan updates. Next page, please. In order to properly and efficiently manage and process all those requests, we have our transportation request system, the TRS. We use TRS to assign staff and resources, track progress and due dates, document milestones and deliverables, and much more. Now you know some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Next, please. If you have any requests, please send us an email to requests@azmag.gov. A modeling team member will respond promptly and begin the process to ensure timely and quality completion of your request. Thank you. Next page, please. And again, that concludes my presentation. For request, please send to requests@azmag.gov. There's a group of people behind it, so we can ensure that we respond very quickly. And for complaints or compliments, please send to me. I'd like to hear both. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I would have steered complaints to Patrick, but appreciate you taking that one. Excellent presentation. Does anybody have any questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. And I know I owe you a follow-up. We were going to touch base on the Goodyear portion, so
Sure.
I'll reach out to you after the meeting.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Appreciate
Yep.
that. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Number 9, requests for future agenda items. Do we have any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? And in case anybody didn't hear right at the beginning, I know Shahid has asked about in-person. Patrick's going to be sending out some information about a December possible hybrid in-person virtual combo. So thank you, Patrick. And hearing no more requests, next agenda item is for comments for the committee. Do we have any comments or announcements from the membership? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to our presenters. Excellent work. And the next meeting of the Transportation Review Committee will be on Thursday, December 12th at 10 a.m. Please note the meeting will be hybrid and until we find out from Patrick how that's going to work. And with no further business, today's meeting is adjourned at 11:06. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.